The star, the flower, and the mushroom. And from them, a video game franchise. The franchise. 40 years of Mario, and 40 years of the star, the flower, and the mushroom. Those power-ups have been the backbone for a lot of great games. A lot of different games. But nothing can stay the same for 4 decades. No generation is an exact copy of the one before. Every so often, there's a change. Some tweak to the formula. And for Mario, that often meant new powers and new power-ups. The supporting cast of Mario power-ups have gone through massive turnover. A new addition here, a change in behavior there, each leaving an imprint on its debut game, and each subtly guiding the direction of the games to come. Mario power-ups shape their games, and the story of them is the story of the franchise. So, let's tell it. Let's talk about the evolution of Super Mario power-ups. Start your own classic 40-year game franchise with help from today's sponsor, Game Maker. Toby Fox is doing it. What's stopping you? I know at least half of you watching right now have a game kicking around in your mind. But one of the key decisions any indie dev will make is what engine to use. Game Maker is a powerful but approachable engine for making games. You can really push it and get commercial quality stuff out there. Game Maker can help you make high-end, commercially successful indie games. Deltarune's done in Game Maker. So is The King is Watching and Beastie Ball. Those have sold great. Since Game Maker has been around for a bit, there are plenty of YouTube tutorials that can help you get your game started on the platform. Plus, Game Maker also has an active Discord community ready to help you make, talk about, and celebrate the games you want and love. Click the link in the description to start making great games fast with Game Maker. Alright, let's go back to 1985. Super Mario Bros. Jumpman in his starring debut. Forget those other ones for now. Super Mario Bros. Early designs had a large player character who would run and jump around large courses. In these early builds, a big Mario was taking up too much of the screen, and one of the developers thought it might be fun if you pulled back and could see more of the course at a time. That sparked the idea of changing from big to small when you hit an enemy, and a new mechanic was born. But what would cause that game mechanic to happen? Taking a cue from the same magical associations that inspired Alice in Wonderland, the magic mushroom was added to change Mario from small to big. The devs experimented and found that it was most fun if it ran away slowly from you once it appeared, enticing you to chase it. Besides the extra hit point, you also get to smash through bricks, and blaze a little trail of your own through a level. That's it. That's all the mushroom does. But there can be subtle details in even the most basic mechanics. With the super form responsible for both an extra hit point and some abilities, losing health in Mario means you also lose powers. Miyamoto knew that players would have a very different experience when the game takes away powers versus when it only takes away health. The dev team decided that starting small would be better than starting as super and only getting weaker as you go. Starting with the power and then losing it is much less satisfying than starting without the power, gaining it, then losing it. But what if you find a block with a mushroom in it when you're already Super Mario? That's where you get the second power-up, the stationary Fire Flower. Sometimes the power-up being stationary makes it even tougher to get to. Touching it makes you turn into Fiery Mario. It doesn't give you a third hit point, but you can shoot off a bouncing fireball that makes short work of most enemies. 2 fireballs even. The difficult segments of the game get way more manageable, but that makes the punishment of turning back into small Mario that much worse. You're powerful, but still fragile. The tension is always there. Unless you find the third power-up. Secret, hidden, and much rarer blocks can hide a Starman, which keeps you from dying from enemies or obstacles at all. Just don't fall. And a song for being a special little guy plays. Yeah. The Starman is separate from the other 2 power-ups upgrade chain and also gives you a death touch. which lets you completely overpower anything you find. For a few seconds, you're completely invincible. There should be no tension, but since the star is so short-lived, the tension now comes from within. There's a pressure to get the most done you can with the time you're given. You might want to rush forward, full speed, though that can create its own risks. But that's all. There's just the 3 power-ups. This game is comically restrained compared to where we're going. The Mario 1 power-ups are all great boosters. Even if there aren't that many of them, and the mechanics of the power-ups aren't very complicated, each power-up is a major step up in Mario's survivability. They're all still effective at being power-ups, giving some benefit you can feel as you play. None of the 3 power-ups are required to beat any level, or to beat the game. They're all there to boost the player's margin for error, and in the process make the game a little less stressful, step by step. But remember, nothing stays exactly the same forever. Super Mario Bros. Wasn't going to be a one-off game. There was going to be a sequel. But what should its sequel be? In Japan, Super Mario Bros. 2 was a quick flip. A more difficult set of courses released less than a full year later. This version was the game packed into Super Mario All-Stars as the Lost Levels. The poison mushroom shows up for the first time, but that's less a power-up and more just another kind of obstacle. Power-ups were maybe a little more hidden than usual, and tougher to keep, with all the new stuff trying to get you. Were there any other changes? No, not really. The game's basically baby's first Kaizo Mario, which is an important point of inspiration, but there's not much to say about its power-ups. This Super Mario Bros. 2 is just overall a lot harder. But could the world handle such a game? Nintendo of America did not think so. Even though they had a full-on sequel to one of their best-selling products of all time just sitting around ready to go, they would not release it anywhere else. It's just too difficult. But if that wasn't going to be the world's Super Mario Bros. 2, what would be? Kicking Around Nintendo was a prototype platformer, inspired by Mario, that they reskinned to make a promotional tie-in game for Fuji TV, the big Japanese TV network, and their media expo, Yume Kojo 87. This was released in Japan as Yume Kojo Doki Doki Panic. And if you were a company desperate to release a new Mario 2, why not reskin this thing back to Mario? Just make it quick. Quick and easy. The final, easier Super Mario Bros. 2 was at last released in October of 1988 in America. And boy does it do its own thing. It's obviously not really working off the same foundation of the first game, but a few elements do make the jump. The Starman made it, and the mushroom is back, though no longer magic. Mario and friends have explicit hit points in this one, turning small only when they're on their last legs. You collect hearts to heal, and the mushroom is a full heal, plus it adds an extra tick to your health bar. Finding a mushroom is like 100 times harder. You have to first find a magic potion, throw it in the right spot to spawn a door, go to a parallel world called Subspace, and if done successfully, you'll have a few seconds to get the shroom. Even though it gives you the extra hit point, you can still jump around and move the same, small or big. And breaking through blocks isn't a thing here, so having a mushroom is not quite as important as in the first game. Maybe the mushroom's a little underwhelming for the big to-do involved in finding it. The star does roughly the same thing still. Instead of finding them in blocks, you collect enough cherries in a level to get the star to appear. You might want to be choosy as to when you spawn the star. It's got its own places to be. Mario 2 focuses more on throwable items that you can pull up from the ground instead of traditional power-ups. Vegetables, bombs, shells, and POW blocks do the work when you toss them at enemies. Sometimes you'll pull up a stopwatch and freeze the world for a bit. It's a little more of an improvisational style of play compared to the first game, where you're aiming and throwing whatever you can get your hands on instead of jumping and running. It feels more deliberate. Super Mario Bros. 2 wasn't exactly a template for the future, but it's still the origin of some ideas the series would keep in its back pocket. But with this detour out of the way, it's high time for a proper sequel. Where Lost Levels was an expansion pack, and Mario 2 USA was a Plan B reskin stopgap, there's no question where Mario 3 fits into the series. This is a true sequel. But Miyamoto and crew did take one lesson to heart. After the Mario 2 difficulty kerfuffle, they set out to make a sequel where all types of players could have fun. And among other things, that led to a flood of new helpful systems and power-ups. The original power-ups all return, and they all work the same as before. The international version is even a little more forgiving. Getting hit as Fire Mario in that one will only downgrade you to Super, rather than all the way back to Small. There's a brand new inventory system. By going into Toad houses, playing minigames, and completing certain challenges, you'll be given an inventory item. These can be held onto across levels and across lives, to save for a rainy day. If you're strategic about it, you now won't always have to restart a level in your small form. Nice. Instead of power-ups being short-term only, the game is letting them become a basket of tools for you to gather and choose from at the right moment. But what would a sequel be without fun new powers? Before, power-ups had mostly just been boosters to your survivability. In Mario 3, the new ones give you a greater variety of ways to play. If you find a power-up while you're in super form, you might get the Fire Flower, but you also might be surprised. The Super Leaf could pop out, letting you turn into Raccoon Mario. You can now do melee combat, and glide, like a raccoon. Hit B to whip enemies and blocks with your tail, hammer A while in the air and you'll glide around. The game also adds a P meter at the bottom of the screen, which fills up while running. And as Raccoon Mario, you can straight up fly if you filled the meter. Now, you might think that being able to fly over all the obstacles in an obstacle course game would break the design a little. And you'd be right. But it is pretty fun to do, and having to take a running start to make it happen makes it a touch less broken. But how to balance Raccoon Mario was the source of a real design argument among the devs at the time. Two more new power-ups play off of the new Raccoon Mario mechanics, the P-Wing and the Tanuki suit. The P-Wing gives you a full meter no matter how fast you're running, effectively giving you infinite flight for one stage. Yeah, they were right to limit this. The Tanuki suit is mostly a rare aesthetic upgrade, but you can turn into a statue as well, hiding you from enemies, which can help you get out of specific no-win scenarios. There are more rare power-ups too. The Frog suit lets Mario improve his swimming technique, letting him move much more freely underwater. It's very situational. On land, Frog Mario can only hop around. Obviously, not the best. The Frog suit is very rare though, and it's still good to have in the right type of stage. The Hammer Bro suit is even rarer, and lets you throw insta-kill hammers that can take out any enemy in the game. It's very useful, but so rare that it's even more important to bust it out carefully. Mario 3 does adopt a bit of the item pickup idea from Mario 2, letting you hold and throw out shells and special blocks. Some of these picked up items can function basically like a power-up, like the Karibo shoe. It only shows up in World 5-3 and lets you hop onto spikes and pointy enemies no problem. If you get hit, you only lose the shoe and can continue with whatever other powers you had collected at the time. You can't stash it in your inventory either, so use it or lose it. So that's a lot of new power-ups, but how they get used is most important. Between the P meter, the gliding, the new combat options, and the new inventory, the designers had much more latitude to make interesting places to explore. Mario 3 is filled with secret nooks and crannies only accessible when you have the right power-up at the right time, and the game loves to give you tons of bonuses for making the effort to find the secrets. For the first time, the world feels like a place you can meticulously explore, instead of only treating it like an obstacle course. Mario 3 cements and defines the series' foundation, confirming which elements of Mario 1 and 2 were going to continue forward, and setting up the series for the future. But first, we have to answer another burning question. What if Mario was really small? Like Game Boy sized? The year is 1989. Nintendo is building the most advanced video game brick ever made. Mario 3 has sold like gangbusters in Japan, though it's not out yet in the States. New game systems could always use a signature game from a company mascot, right? But adaptations always come with compromises. The Game Boy is kind of an NES, but it isn't one. What would have to be done to adapt the series to the Game Boy? Scope, mainly. Super Mario Land is a bite-sized Mario adventure. As such, it takes more cues from Mario 1 than 3. Development was headed by Game Boy project head Gunpei Yokoi and the team behind the arcade Donkey Kong and Mario Bros. There are quirky differences, like the exploding Koopa shells, and the Starman music being replaced with the can-can. The Fire Flower is now the Super Ball Flower. Mario will look exactly the same, but now he can chuck balls at things. The Super Ball projectiles don't bounce along the ground, but instead reflect at a 45-degree angle off of any surface they hit and keep going. You can pull off some neat trick shots. Don't miss though, you can only fire off one Super Ball at a time, and it'll be a while if it's bouncing off to nowhere. And sometimes it'll just come right back at ya. Not sure why. There's no Toad House or inventory, but hitting the top of this tower at the end of every stage will let you play a minigame, with a chance to either get another Super Ball Flower or some extra lives. We also have a couple vehicle-based levels. Mario gets in a submarine and a plane. These were simple side-scrolling shmup segments that worked under the basic mushroom damage rules, but this is just straight-ahead shooting. Though this is the first non-platforming gameplay in a mainline Mario game. Besides that, this game is essentially if you take Mario 1 and make it tiny. Tiny coins, tiny Mario, tiny blocks, and tiny changes to the power-up system. Is it the most original Mario game? No. But does it have iconic power-up elements used in the future? No. But is it the best Mario game? No. Alright, moving on. We're coming up to the 90s. Nintendo's got a hardware upgrade in the pipeline, and Mario's first 16-bit adventure is close at hand. Super Mario World. A whole new world of Super Mario. And a new system. Super Mario World is a launch title for the Super Nintendo in 1990. We've got new ways to find power-ups. Your normal blocks, sure, but they can now sometimes pop out of bushes. Some pop out of specific enemies when you defeat them. Or take a spin on one of these new roulette blocks. Crossing a checkpoint might turn you super automatically. New to Super Mario World are the Switch Palaces, which add in specific blocks to all the other levels of the world once you activate the Switch. And the specific power-up inside might be just what you need to go down the secret side path. Or just standing on the block itself might open the way. Replaying a level with and without a Switch Palace toggle can be a whole different experience. It's another layer of gameplay that helps give re-exploring even basic courses a chance to be a little more interesting. In the game, most powered-up states interact with the new spin jump. Some blocks and enemies can now be stomped on where they couldn't before, which opens up lots of new level design possibilities. Spin jumping as Fire Mario will even chuck some fireballs out while he's doing it, just for fun. The Mario 3 inventory system and Toad Houses have been left behind, but we still like keeping space for an item in reserve. Whenever you grab a power-up, you get to keep whatever you were previously using in the box at the top. It'll drop out of the box downwards if you get dinged, so you can easily pick up some extra health and maybe get some interesting power back right away. You can even drop it yourself if you hit select if you want. The falling power-up does phase through terrain, which sometimes makes it a little tough to grab. But I like the idea of keeping a little bit of that quick forgiveness for mistakes, without quite as much system overhead as the inventory of Mario 3. Pickup items got some tweaks. We can kick items straight upward now, which is very helpful for stealing Lakitu's ride. This is not far off from the magic carpet from 2, where you can choose exactly where to fly to, if you can find one. You're not here for only tweaks though, we've got new power-ups to go over too. First, get rid of all the newcomers from Mario 3. We're replacing all of them. In are the P-Balloon, the Feather, and the Yoshi. The P-Balloon is rare, and temporarily inflates Mario into a balloon, floating around slowly and around obstacles. You have no defense, so it's very situational. It's mostly used for specific levels designed entirely with the P-Balloon in mind. In place of the leaf and the Tanuki suit, the Feather gives Mario a cape. It's very similar to Raccoon Mario, but it's a little better. The melee attack is much snappier than the Tail Whip was. You can slowly descend by just holding the jump button in midair. Way less mashing of A needed. Just like before, you can jump and soar through the air by building up speed. Unlike the leaf, the Feather lets you glide a little more like a hang glider. Pointing your attack angle up and down lets you build speed and glide further, but getting the hang of it can definitely be tricky. Precision is tough, but the skill ceiling is crazy high, and gives you a lot more satisfaction when you use it to find a new secret path with. And let's be real, Kamikaze Mario is pretty fun. The Yoshi is made up of Yoshi. You ride Yoshi. He was the game's big new draw, enough of one to get front billing on the box art. Yoshi was supposed to debut as early as the original Mario Bros, but technical limitations stood in the way until now. The pure 16-bit power of the SNES opened the door for Yoshi to be the Swiss Army knife of the series. A versatile and complex power-up, maybe the biggest leap in complexity ever seen. Hatching out of an egg when approached, Mario can hop on his back and ride around. Yoshi partly fills the role of the Karibo shoe, a full-on mount that's separate from the power-up chain. He'll take a hit for you too, but you'll get knocked off and he'll run off in a panic. But if you can catch up with Yoshi again, you can jump back on and continue like normal. Yoshi can jump higher than Mario and can bounce off or even walk on top of spiky enemies. You can also jump off of Yoshi, which can work like a double jump if you do it mid-air. Yoshi's most iconic move is his ability to eat almost anything in his way. If Yoshi eats a bunch of berries, he'll lay an egg with an item inside. Most enemies just get swallowed, but Koopa shells will stay in Yoshi's mouth for a little bit and can be spit out as a projectile, or can grant Yoshi extra abilities, depending on the color. Green shells are, well, they're nothing. Red shells spit out 3 fireballs in a spread pattern. Yellow makes a damaging shockwave of clouds every time Yoshi lands. Blue lets Yoshi fly free, taking the hammering A thing from Mario 3 and making it nicer. Once in a while, you might find a multicolored shell too, and you'll get all 3 powers at once. If you can find your way into the Star Road, there's also a secret trio of colored Yoshis that get their matching power all the time, no matter what shells they eat. There's the mini Yoshis that can eat 5 things and turn into a normal Yoshi. There's even an elusively rare dragon wing that only Yoshi can grab, which turns him blue and takes you to another secret bonus area. Yoshi is by far the most elaborate addition to the series, as a power-up and a set of mechanics. It's extremely versatile, it's chock full of secrets, and it rewards exploration like never before. The other additions that come along in World also go a long way, but the series is going all in on non-linear exploration being the ideal state of Mario, and Super Mario World is the crown jewel of putting that concept into classic-era Mario. But it's not the final word. A big change is right around the corner, but there's still a little time. So why not take another crack at the Game Boy formula before calling it a generation? Super Mario Land 2, 6 Golden Coins, showed up 2 years later, in 1992. Mario Land was an attempt to adapt Mario 1 to the Game Boy, and Mario Land 2 is trying to do the same with both Mario 3 and World. But it's not only a slimming down of those games' ideas. Mario Land 2 builds its own unique identity and charm into the mix. Also Wario. V1 Wario. The damage rules have gone back to what they were in Mario 3, and each of the classic trio are the same as always. Koopa shells that you can pick up and toss are back. They figured out how to do the proper fireball behavior, so the Super Ball can go in the garbage. See you in a few decades. There's a new carrot that can turn you into Rabbit Mario. It's a pretty basic flight power-up, letting you descend slowly by holding down the button. The carrot is very exploitable though. If you hammer A, Mario will barely descend at all, and you'll just stay up there. You can skip huge chunks of levels, and if you choose to go that way, it's enough to make this one of the easier Mario games by itself. So it's not a huge roster of changes, but there's one more introduction. The power-ups can now do more than just help you. Wario gets phases in his final boss fight, and he's using the carrot and the fire flower against you, in a really cool finale at the time. In hindsight, this was a send-off for the era. There won't be another new classic 2D Mario game for nearly 14 years. But it was a good one at least. Goodbye Mario, into the freezer you go. We're about to shift paradigms and synergize the proactive status quo. It's 1996, and it's time for 3D. But that's a story for another video.